Irene Jalowayski. I'm a glass artist here at Artisans on the Ave. I've been in this gallery since we opened, which is about 6 years, maybe a little more. Before that, here in Lake Worth, I was at Clay Glass Metal Stone. We used to be across the street, right on Lake Avenue. And a number of us from there came here when Betty opened this gallery. And now we have Roman and his wife who own it, okay? Today I'm going to talk to you a little bit about glass casting primarily. I do both fused glass and cast glass. Fused glass is just taking sheets of glass, putting glass together, putting it in a kiln, and firing it at a high temperature. So most of my fused glass I fire at 1380 degrees. Sometimes I fire a little higher, but I don't like to fire hotter. So, because I like texture in my glass. And at that temperature, I get texture. But when you do fused glass, you know, the glass comes in big sheets. This actually comes in giant sheets, about this big. This is just a little piece. I use bullseye glass. This is a piece that's, you know, like a leftover piece from something else I made. And then you use cutting tools, which some of you, since there's a bunch of glass people here, you all have these tools. This is a score breaker. This is a tile cutter. And you measure. I like this particular ruler. This is something that Phil Materio invented from Mao Art Glass. It's a fabulous ruler for measuring, and also because you can score on these inner lines or on the outer lines, and you can do glass strips and everything really easily. A lot of what I've been doing the last couple of years has been glass casting now. Casting is different than glass fusing, although you're still using a kiln. You can make your own mold, which I do sometimes. So like this piece here, this is a piece that I made. I made my own mold. I'm going to set it down because it's heavy. You make a clay model of what you're going to do. And once your sculpture that you've made is finished, you have a box that you build with loose sides so that you tie them together so that you can remove them easily. You know, so I've got like 4 pieces of wood, and you with a belt around it. You fill it with plaster. You mix your plaster, and you put your clay in there, and you pour the plaster all around it, and then you let it set. And then once it's set, you can take the sides away, and you've got this big chunk of plaster with the clay in the middle. You pull all the clay out, and you have a reverse image of your sculpture. It's a kind of a mold that you can only use once. So I'll never have another piece like this again, because that mold was a one-of-a-kind mold. You have to break it to get your glass out when you finish. So once you have the mold done, that mold is very wet. The plastic is wet. You have to let it dry over 2-3 weeks. You cannot put a wet mold like that in the kiln. It would ruin your kiln. So you have to let that dry, and while it's drying, every day you work on it with little sculpting tools, making sure that every nook and cranny is smooth. And then, when it's dry, you can fill it with glass. So you're going to fill it with ground glass like this. This is Frick. Buy it like this. You see it comes. But you can also make your own Frick. You can take sheets or scrap glass and hammer it, or, you know, I put it in a bunch of newspaper and just hammer it. But it's much easier to just buy it. So I buy it. When you make it, you know what you're doing when you're putting your frit in there is you're not just taking a bottle of frit and dumping it in, right? You take your frit like you're using paint, and you're layering the colors so that in however manner, whatever manner you want. So like this fish is like a lot of different colors. This fish has white and yellow and blue and black, and there's different colors of green, and there's colors, see, in the background. And then one of the reasons glass casting is so expensive is because to fire that piece in the kiln, now you've got the mold and you put it in your kiln, takes 40 to 50 hours in the kiln. So it's taking your kiln over for, by the time you're done, the better part of the week. So anyway, that's open glass casting. Now, then I do pieces like that, the one up on the wall, with the feathers and the birds. It's called Fly Away. I just won a couple of prizes with that piece. It's glass and cast glass and metal. And this is the same type of thing. This is just leaves and flowers. Now these are made with molds that are already made. So, but they're casting molds. They're not the same kind of mold that you use for slumping, for making a bowl or a dish or a vase. So these are, all three of these are casting molds. So this one, the flowers that are on that flyaway, I used this mold. The flowers are made by layering different colors of frit. So you can see this is how they come out once you fire it. It also takes longer to fire something like this than it does to fire just a fused piece. And everything has to be calculated by weight in order to determine the firing schedule. Every firing schedule is different. When you fire in the kiln, you're not just turning your kiln on and letting it go. All the kilns today are digital, and and so you have to start out by raising the temperature, say to 250 degrees and holding it, then maybe another 150 degrees up to 400 degrees and holding it, and you keep doing that according to the firing schedule that you've determined for whatever mold or whatever piece you're doing, and till it gets up to the highest temperature. Let it that, and then it stays there for a while, and then it starts to come down, but it has to stay by 900, at least 900 degrees to do something called a anneal, and you have to do that with fused glass too. But cast glass stays in a lot longer to anneal because it's just much heavier and thicker. So I even do casting for jewelry. So like this piece that I've got on, this little piece of glass, this actually came out of this mold. It's got this finding on the back now, but you know, I just fill the little molds with the frit. And then if these pieces that I have in there don't have any design, but like this one, you know, I put the dichroic glass right in the mold with the frit.
Do you do it upside down or?
No, this is the top.
So it goes in the way it comes?
Yeah, you put the frit in, and then you'll put your dichroic glass in, and then you fire it.
Right. I didn't know if it was reversed.
No. If you reversed it, it wouldn't be shiny. I can't feel this. Well, I'll do it later. Okay, so I want to show you, for people who haven't seen, this is one way dichroic glass comes. It comes in pieces. You can see. I'm sure you've used it, but what's the difference between this and the other stuff that's used? Well, this glass, you know, it's made of, you know, it's glass, it's sand, and it's a fine glass. It's all one. It's made so that it will melt at a certain temperature, and you have to use all the same glass. That the coefficient of expansion of that is 90. This glass, it's also 90, But you see, this has black glass, and then it's got a thin layer of metal, metallic. Then the metal, high concentrations of metal, make the dichroic glass. And I don't know if I have a piece of clear. So this one doesn't have a black back, and this one has clear. And it will also fire real nicely. And like when you put it on top, if I put this on some black frit in there, you know, this would show up really sharp and nice. Yeah. And then another way that you can buy acrylic, if I can open it up. You can buy different kinds of noodles and this fire sticks. You see they come. So like, I don't know if I don't have any on those menorahs. I have, this one has one right there, and then it has a noodle underneath. And that one has two noodles. And then they have acrylic glass on them. So these are expensive. Cost about $100 for a tube of this stuff. Glass is very expensive, all this glass that you use. Sorry, break my own piece. So, which is one reason when you go to buy glass, to buy a piece of art glass, you might think it's cost a lot of money, but if you think about it, like something like that disc up there cost me about $100 to make. So how can I can't sell it for $100. So, I wanted to show you one other thing that I like to do, because this is an interesting mold. This mold, it's a casting mold. So like, I like to make these dishes. They're very heavy. That's just the bottom.
Beautiful.
And this one is like leftover from Christmas, but I have sold quite a few of these. And they're made in this size. You can buy different shapes for these boxes. So this is the base and this is the lid. So the lid goes in like, and it fires like that. Not with the flour. The flour I did separately. Yeah. And this is real interesting how I use, you can just do it by filling this with frit, no problem, but I don't do that. I take a lot of strips of glass and I stand them up all around the edges, and then I fill it in with frit so that you get and I try to use a glass that has a nice design like that. That is plain glass. That's it's a Christmas glass that they come out with every year before the holidays. And so when you fire it, you can see a really pretty design instead of just a solid color. I mean, I make them solid too, because some people want just plain, but I like them with, I've made all different kinds of, it's called collage glass that I use for that. And there's all different colors and designs of collage glass
Can I
available.
just ask you a question?
Yeah.
You made the mold for that fish piece.
Yes, I did.
So that's all one piece? That's not like pieces that
No,
are glued
this,
on?
no. Now this table, on the other hand, these pieces are all glued on.
That's
This
one
is
piece.
one solid piece of glass. Did you feel it? How heavy it is?
I know it's
Yeah. Heavy. Yeah. So, yeah, one solid piece. So this was like a big square of clay.
Oh, wait.
And then, you know, I cut out different things. And I put them onto the clay. And then the mold, so all this was made in clay,
And you took
just
the
like
clay
this.
out and
And then I poured the mold. And then once the mold was set, it didn't matter what I did with the clay, except that I had to weigh the clay. I needed to know exactly how much the clay weighed, because I had to put exactly that amount of glass back into the mold, or it wouldn't have fired properly. So. I brought this poster so you could see my studio a little bit. This is me. So this is a grinder. These are the glass tools I just showed you. And this is a Taurus bandsaw. So the band is a diamond bandsaw. It's like any bandsaw really, but it's got a diamond band, which you have to have diamond for cutting glass. Like even these little cutters, these have a little piece of diamond on the blade is a diamond blade. This is one of my kilns. I have a couple of them.
Yeah, you might have answered this when I left, but the molds that you buy, you reuse those?
Those were reusable molds.
Okay.
So like the feathers on there, I
Great.
was gonna bring them feather mold and I couldn't find it. And I don't know what happened to it because I just used it not too long ago. And I was looking, it's probably right in front of my nose, but I probably have 150 molds. So it's,
So is that done reverse, the molds? Like, is that the bottom?
no, that's the top. And then those feathers were made and then they were slumped on the wave mold. I don't know, I have 3 different wave molds, so they're different sizes.
Right. That's amazing.
And those feathers were just layers and layers of different colors to get those effects. You know, very carefully done with a small little cup and paintbrushes to get the frit exactly where you want it. And once you get it there, you just put it right in the kiln because you don't want it to move around. And you do one at a time. I mean, that took me a really long time to make because I only have one feather mold, right? And and besides that, it's a very big mold. It's about that size. And so there's really not a lot of room in the kiln for anything else. And I think it's maybe all the way, the mold might probably 14 or 15 inches long. So, so you have to do each feather separately. And then each feather had to be fired separately to slump it because I didn't want it flat. I wanted to have some interest and be curved. And then all the birds and the leaves and the flowers, they were all done, everything separately. And then I had to, assemble everything. So. Anything else? Any other questions?
So you only put a piece in the kiln once? You don't like put it in, then add another color, put it
Oh,
back in?
yes, I fire things sometimes 3-4
Oh,
times.
you do?
Oh, yeah, especially infusing. So, I don't think I have anything here now, but I'll use the birds. See the birds up there? So, on a piece like that, when I was making it, that one I actually only fired once, but I have had a lot of pieces where, especially faces or complicated pieces, I'll fire it and then, I just am not happy with it. It needs something. And I add more glass to it and I'll fire it again. I might fire it a 3rd time. And then depending if I want to slump it in a mold or something, that's another fire. So actually, this Seder plate here that I made, that's a real interesting Seder plate. That's not fused, just plain fused. That Seder plate, the dish itself is cast glass. I have a Patty's coat there. Patty Gray is a glass artist who has, be careful, they're separate little dishes. She's the one who developed these casting molds that are reusable. Before that, the only way you could cast was to make your own mold. Mm. But now there's more and more molds coming out, casting molds. So she now has developed some circle molds in different sizes and some squares and rectangles that make tiles, but they're casting molds there. So that mold, when you use that particular circle mold, you have to put a piece of kiln paper on it, on the bottom, put a circle, a glass circle, regular glass circle on the bottom, and then the rest of it is all frit. What I did with that is I took strips of glass and stood them up on end, like this. And just there were 2 different colors and layered them, okay? And then it was a cast firing, so I fired it. Then when it was done, I decided I wanted more on it. So I used some Vitrograph. I don't know if you gentlemen use any Vitrograph, but I make Vitrograph. And I used Vitrograph on it. It gave it all those squiggly lines. And I did another one that I put Stars of David all around the edge. But that one I made for my temple. They asked me to make something for the Passover Seder.
Hebrew letters on there.
Those I was able to buy, but now I buy some things from Pacific Glass, Pacific Art Glass. It's a company, a wholesaler, for glass artists,
Yeah.
and they actually have them now. I've just found that out.
Have what, the words or the
The
letters?
Hebrew letters.
The Hebrew letters. So each letter is,
We fired you.
I haven't seen it yet. I have to order them. I'm gonna order them. I was talking to the guy that owns it, because I was making an order, and he told me that, because I've been looking all over. I used to be able to get them from Israel, and now I can't, that supplier is long gone, and I haven't been able to get them. So I've painted them on with enamel. I've used frit to write the Hebrew letters. This year, I happened to find those little dishes at Traditions. They have them, and they're just made to use in any Seder plate. So I made my Seder plate and just bought the dishes, the little dishes. And then, but I was talking to Pacific Glass, and he said he just went, about the Las Vegas show? So he was at the Las Vegas show, and somebody was there selling.
somebody else was there too.
Well, they
You
should
went
have
to the
seen
Las
the
Vegas
Hebrew
show?
letters. They were there.
Yeah,
They
You
were
go
there.
there too?
I have not gone.
I've been there every year.
I've
It's
never
good.
gone.
Obviously, it's good if you're
I
going
took
every
a
year.
class with Patty Gray.
Uh-huh.
I've taken a couple classes with her. This year we took with Pat Wild, who does, she makes brooches.
So, but that's good. I mean,
Next year.
I've just never gone. It's very expensive to go. It is, it's expensive. And there's
It
plenty of
just
places
was.
I can drive to
What was it,
take
2 weeks
classes.
ago?
April 4th.
Oh, okay, a
Yeah.
little bit longer,
It
yeah.
was in April. Tanya Viet goes there, but I can go to the West Coast and take classes from her. I don't have to go to Las Vegas, so, and those classes are like 3-4 days long sometimes.
Which one, in Vegas?
No,
Oh, Tanya's?
yeah. So, but anyway, that's great that you've been, because I'm sure it was a
And I know
wonderful
Tanya
experience.
there too.
Yeah, I'm sure you do, so do I. Okay. Anything else? Any other questions?
No, it was very nice.
I have a very stupid question because
Nothing
I don't know,
stupid.
I'm new and I don't know anything about glass. What are different category of glasses, like quality of glass material itself? How you pick what
Well,
glass
if
to
you're
buy?
doing art glass, then you're using top quality, because
Okay.
you can fuse window glass, like plate
Okay.
glass. But it's not, you can't mix it with any of the glass that I use. People are kind of breaking it up into chunks and making things, and it's cheap to do, and you can sell it inexpensively. So, I just haven't tried it, because there's only so much time, I've got a list this long of projects that are at my house right now that I wanna do, that I haven't been able to get to. So, that's on my list, but it's at the
What
bottom.
about the crystal glass where you have like the dice, whatever?
You mean crystal, like what you buy from Czechoslovakia
Yeah,
or
yeah,
someplace?
yeah.
That's
Is it
leaded,
different?
that's
Is it
leaded
different
glass.
to do something?
That's leaded glass.
Okay.
It's, I don't really know how exactly they make that glass. This glass doesn't have any lead in it. It's
Oh,
different.
that's good.
It's different. When I look, because a lot of the crystal is cut, it's gotta be pretty thick. You can't cut really thin glass like that, you know, it's like carved, etched in. So I have a new project that I've told you about that I've got all the stuff, but I haven't started working on it yet because I just haven't found the time, where I'm gonna be using 18 karat gold and fusing it into the glass and etching and using enamels in there. And, you know, I'm looking forward to doing it, but I haven't gotten to it yet this summer. Anything else?
No, thank you very much.
Very informative, thank you.
Stuff is beautiful.
Yeah, thank you very much. I like making it, you know.
I realize how much time it took to do the piece, that's just
Yes.
incredible.
It takes a lot of time.
And I'm sure you, when you started, you can't wait to see what it looks like, and then you have to wait for so long.
You do.
To see the final product.
You know, it's always a surprise
Right.
when you open your kiln, you know, you just never know, because you know what you put in and you know what you want it to look like, but it doesn't necessarily come out always looking exactly how you want, you know, so.
That's nice.
Where'd you get this mold from?
I get that mold?
Yeah.
I don't know, I buy my stuff from a lot of different places. I buy stuff from Delphi Glass, I buy from Slumpy's, I buy from Pacific
don't-
Art Glass, I buy from
Slumpy's
D&L Art
probably has
Glass.
it. Slumpy's probably has that.
I don't remember if this is a Creative Paradise mold or not.